I used to tell people I was still in uni, studying business, slogging through late-night assignments. It was easier than admitting I'd dropped out 2 semesters ago, drowning in panic attacks and overdue bills. I kept the lie going because it was cleaner than the truth, and because my parents would have disowned me if they knew I'd walked out of Adelaide Uni with nothing but a stack of debt and a shattered sense of self-worth. Domino's on Hindley Street became my refuge. It was supposed to be temporary, a paycheck, a distraction, but 2 months turned into 6. I'd work night shifts, box pizzas, handle drunk customers, and pray for the hours to pass without something stupid happening. Hindley Street never really sleeps. Even after 1 a.m., there's always someone shouting, laughing, stumbling past, in heels or sneakers, high or hammered or both. That night in February, it was humid as hell. I was in the back of the shop boxing a large Supreme when I heard it. 3 slow knocks on the back delivery door. Sharp, measured, like someone meant it. I turned to Tara, our shift supervisor, who was counting change by the register. "Did you hear that?" She didn't look up. "Hear what?" I paused, walked to the steel door. The alley out back was empty, just garbage bins, a cracked street lamp, and the faint whir of a distant air conditioner. Nothing. No footsteps. No voice, just the faint smell of pizza dough and bin rot. I shut the door, told myself I was overtired. But that knocking? It stuck with me. It was too deliberate, too slow, like someone wanted me to know they were there. And they weren't, in a hurry. The next night, same shift. I was more alert, halfway expecting it. That kind of dread you can't explain but can't ignore either. The store was quieter than usual, maybe 1 or 2 late-night pickups, a few Uber Eats orders. Tara was restocking sauces. I was folding boxes near the back door. Then came the sound again. Not a knock this time, but a fist pounding against the metal. 3 times, then silence. The whole door vibrated. Tara dropped a bottle of garlic dip. Jesus, what the hell was that? I didn't answer. I was already at the door. I yanked it open. Nothing. No footsteps retreating. No voice. No body. But there, lying at the foot of the door, was a single Domino's glove. The kind we wear for handling orders. Black latex, slightly crumpled, grease-stained. Tara stared at it. Someone messing with us? I picked it. Up with 2 fingers, it was warm. "Probably," she said, trying to act casual. But I saw the unease in her eyes. "Don't read into it. Just kids." Except it wasn't kids. Not with that kind of timing. Not that kind of glove. Later, when I went to my car, I found a handful of small marbles lined up on the hood, perfectly arranged, like someone had taken their time. I didn't say anything to Tara. I didn't sleep that day either. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that pounding, the glove, the marbles, the silence. It wasn't just a prank, it was personal. And somehow, I knew it was meant for me. The next week, it got worse. It started with the phone call. Around 2 a.m., the store phone rang. Tara picked it up, then handed it to me. "Jake, it's for you, I think." I frowned. No one ever called me at work. I pressed the phone to my ear. For a few seconds, nothing. Then a distorted voice hissed through the line. "You shouldn't have taken my spot, Jake." I froze. "Who is this?" Silence. Then, click. Tara gave me a weird look. "Prank?" I nodded, lying, but my hands were shaking. A day later, we found a note under the back door, written on an old pizza box top smudged with sauce and oil. "I'm always watching, even when you don't see me." Tara still wouldn't admit something was off, but I could tell she was starting to feel it too. She double-checked the locks, asked me to stop leaving the back door cracked open for air. That night, I couldn't focus. I botched 2 orders and forgot a delivery bag. My head was spinning. Sleep deprivation mixed with the sense that I was being watched constantly. Was it paranoia? My therapist used to ask that before I stopped going. Before I told myself I didn't need help, I knew who it was. His name was Evan Rigby. He used to work here before I was hired. Got fired for stealing, Tara said. Walked out shouting. And the day I started, he was standing across the street, watching. It all broke open the night I took out the trash. It was almost 2:30 a.m., and the store was dead. One last order on the oven timer. Tara was doing closing inventory. I took 2 black garbage bags and stepped into the back alley. The air was still, the street lamp flickering above like a dying firefly. As I reached the dumpster, something shifted in the shadows. I turned fast. A figure lunged at me. He grabbed my arm, bony fingers like wire cable locking around my elbow. "You stole my job. Now I take something of yours." It was Evan. Wild eyes, patchy beard, smelled like sweat and burnt grease. I yanked back hard, dropped the garbage bags and ran. My feet barely touched the ground. I slammed the back door shut just as his fist smashed into it, leaving a dent. Tara came rushing in. "What happened?" "He was out there," I panted. "Evan, he grabbed me." She locked the door. "Call the cops, now." When the police came, Officers Dawson and Singh, they didn't roll their eyes, didn't treat me like I was crazy. They found Evan wandering a block away, muttering about how I stole his future. He had a Domino's hat in his coat pocket. He was arrested for trespassing and assault, but that didn't erase the fear. That didn't erase the knocks. I quit Domino's the next day. Tara understood. She even hugged me, though neither of us were huggers. "You held it together longer than most would," she said. I left my uniform in the break room, walked out without looking back. But it followed me home. Every night I hear things. A tap on the window, a creak in the hallway. My brain says it's nothing, but my body reacts like Evan's still out there. I check my locks 3 times now. I started therapy again, because the truth is, I can't do this alone anymore. I don't sleep through the night. I keep the lights on. I flinch at every knock, even if it's just a delivery guy or the neighbor's kid. Domino's was supposed to be a stopgap, a way to stay afloat. Instead, it became a place I'll never forget, for all the wrong reasons. I still don't know how long he was watching me before that first knock, or how close I came to something worse. But I do know this. When I hear a knock now, I don't ask who it is. I don't open the door. I run. Sometimes the things we fear are real, and the only mistake is pretending they're not. Trust your instincts. Speak up. Don't wait until the knocking gets louder. I never planned to end up here. 31 years old, living above a laundromat that always smells like mildew and stale detergent, driving pizzas around Detroit in a busted Hyundai with no heat and a half-cracked windshield. My license was technically suspended after I ignored 1 too many parking tickets, but Domino's didn't ask and I didn't tell. As long as I made it back before dawn with the receipts and my cash counted right, nobody cared. The Domino's where I work is tucked into a half-dead strip mall off 8 Mile Road, sandwiched between a liquor store with bars on the windows and a vape shop that never seems open. The lot's a minefield of potholes and busted bottles. Half the time my tires scrape gravel just trying to park straight. I lived in that studio for about 9 months. Rent was cheap and the noise was manageable, unless someone decided to race a dirt bike down the alley at 2 a.m. My only neighbor was Lena Petrov, a quiet nursing student with soft eyes and a sad smile. She always tipped me in whatever she could, sometimes a handful of change, sometimes half a cookie and a napkin. Told me I looked like someone who could use the sugar. She wasn't wrong. I didn't know her well, but she felt like the only piece of real kindness in my life. Everything else, my job, my car, the stack of payday loans waiting in my glove box, was just noise. But Lena, she saw me, even if she barely said 10 words at a time. That night, the snow was starting to fall again. Thick, sharp flakes, My breath fogged the inside of my windshield as I cranked the defroster that barely worked. That was the last night I saw Lena alive. Carl Jenkins, or as we called him behind the counter, Creepy Carl, was one of our regulars. Lived alone, in a basement-level apartment about 6 blocks east of the store. Ordered the same thing every time. Large meat lovers, extra cheese, no garlic crust. Always paid cash, always over-tipped like he was trying too hard. He gave off a smell like burnt wires and wet carpet, and he always stared a beat too long when he read your name tag. David, he'd say, holding the vowels like gum. You deliver good. Yeah, thanks, Carl. On that night, the one that won't stop replaying in my head, I got his usual order ticket at 1:30 a.m. sharp. I remember because Big Reg, our night manager, handed it to me with a grunt and muttered, "Your buddy ordered again." Better than him walking in, I joked, but even saying it made my chest feel tight. I pulled up to his place and knocked like usual. He answered quicker than expected, shirtless, breathing heavy, eyes bright like a dog that's been locked in too long. "Got your order, Carl," I said, holding the box like a shield. "You ever delivered a Lena?" he asked, out of nowhere. His breath reeked of whiskey and rot. I blinked. "What?" "You know, the girl upstairs from you, she's real quiet, like a mouse, easy to forget." I stared. I didn't remember telling him where I lived, or who Lena was. That's when I noticed the bloody scratch marks across his knuckles, fresh, raw. I didn't wait for the tip. I handed him the box and turned fast. I got back into my car and locked the doors with shaking fingers. In my rear view, I saw him standing there, watching, smiling. Back at the store, I tried to shake it off, told Reggie about Carl's weirdness, but he just shrugged. "That dude's been off for years," he said, tapping the bat behind the counter. "Just watch your 6." By 3 a.m., we were winding down, just a few slices left in the warmer trash bags full. I took mine out to the dumpster behind the building like always. Cold stabbed through my hoodie. The alley smelled like grease and old beer. That's when I saw him. Carl, standing by the dumpster, no coat, no shoes, just a filthy t-shirt clinging to his chest and a knife swinging slow in one hand. His eyes locked on the back door like he'd been waiting, not for trash, for me. My breath caught in my throat. I dropped the bag and ran, slammed the door behind me so hard the top pane cracked. Reggie jumped up, bat in hand. "The hell's wrong with you?" "Carl's out back," I panted. "He's got a knife." Reggie didn't hesitate, locked the door, pulled his phone, called the cops. By the time they showed, lights flashing over broken glass and frozen potholes, Carl was gone. No footprints, no sign, like the snow swallowed him whole. The officers took our statements but didn't seem fazed. "Jenkins has a history of mental issues," one muttered. "Probably wandered off." But I knew what I saw, and I knew who he was looking. Furious the next morning, I hadn't even made it back home when Detective Vasquez walked through the Domino's front door. She was in plain clothes, but her eyes were all business. "You David Carter?" I nodded, something in my gut twisted. "You know Elena Petrov?" My mouth dried. "She's my neighbor, upstairs." "Why?" She didn't flinch, didn't soften. "We found her in Carl Jenkins' apartment in the bathtub." Her voice was flat. She was skinned, waist down. Based on the time of death, it likely happened hours before we got your call. I sat down on a milk crate and stared at the floor. Hours before. So while I was handing him a pizza and dodging his questions, she was already... Jesus. Reggie looked like he was going to be sick. I just felt empty, like all the noise in the world had cut out, leaving only the sound of blood pumping behind my eyes. Detective Vasquez didn't say more. Didn't need to. They had Carl. That part was over. But I couldn't stop thinking. Was she still alive when I rang his bell? Was she just feet away, waiting, hoping I'd knock louder? Say something. I didn't. I delivered the pizza and walked away. I left her. I couldn't stay in that apartment. Not with her door just feet from mine. Not with the sound of footsteps echoing in the halls at night, imagined or not. I packed what little I had and begged Reggie to let me sleep in the back room of the store for a few nights. He said, okay, no questions. The nightmares started immediately. Lena's voice whispering from behind walls, Carl's grin behind every reflection. Then, a week later, my phone buzzed. A delivery notification from an unknown number. The address? New apartment. I hadn't told anyone. The note read, "You should have knocked." Attached was a photo, Lena's half-eaten cookie, the one she gave me a week before she died. I stared at the screen until my hands went numb. He knew where I lived, where I moved. That night, I put my phone in the freezer, grabbed Reggie's bat, and sat with my back to the wall until the sun came up. Because I knew now, nowhere is safe. Sometimes we overlook the quiet ones, the lonely neighbors, the strange customers, the shadows near the dumpster. But silence doesn't mean safety. And when your gut tells you something's wrong, trust it. Don't wait. Don't second guess. Because one knock too late can cost someone everything. Working nights at Domino's wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to help with my little brother Mateo's therapy. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 5, and I promised our mom I'd do whatever it took to make sure he got the care he needed, even if it meant standing behind a greasy counter under busted AC in a strip mall where the parking lot lights buzzed more than they shined. Phoenix in July is a furnace that never shuts off. At 9:30 p.m., the asphalt still felt like it was breathing heat. My Corolla coughed every time I turned the key, and the phone in my apron pocket had a spiderweb crack from the last fight with my ex. I didn't think much of it back then. I'd been through worse, but I wasn't ready for Troy Haskins. Troy was one of those regulars who made your skin itch. Mid-50s, wiry frame, nicotine teeth, and a voice that always sounded like it was scratching its way out of his throat. Every night at 9:15 he ordered the same thing, medium pepperoni, always in cash, always exact change. But he never just took the pizza and left. He stayed, watching, talking too slow, standing too close. That night, he said something different. "You got real pretty hands," he said, leaning across the counter like he belonged there. "I've been watching how fast you count change." I gave him a tight smile, sliding the box across. "Here's your order." He didn't move. "You ever deliver to the old motel on 7th? I stay there sometimes. Real quiet. Nobody'd hear you scream." The words hit like ice water. My fingers clenched the edge of the counter. That's when Derek stepped up behind me. He didn't say much, just gripped the steel bat he kept under the register. "You need something else, pal?" Troy smirked, stepped back. "Nah. I'll see you tomorrow, Mia." I didn't answer. I didn't breathe until the door clicked shut behind him. The next night I thought maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I'd imagined the way his voice dragged over my name. But when I pulled into the Domino's lot, I saw him, Troy, already there, leaning against the side of the building, just watching. He didn't come in. Not at first, just stood there, eyes glued to the window like he was waiting for a cue. Derek noticed too. "He been out there long?" I nodded. "Since before my shift started." "He doesn't buy something in 10, I'll tell him to move." But Troy didn't leave. He came in, bought his usual, didn't say a word, just smiled. That same slow, teeth-yellow grin. When I clocked out that night, I found a note under my windshield wiper. "I like when you wear your hair down." I didn't wear it down often, only once, last week. The shift I left late. I showed Derek. He didn't say much, just tucked the note into a drawer and told me to park closer to the door. Then came the calls. 3 times in one shift. The store phone would ring, I'd pick up, and there'd be nothing. Just breathing. slow, measured, not even trying to hide it. On the third one, Derek answered. "You call again? I'm calling the cops." He slammed the phone down hard enough to rattle the countertop. That night, I walked to my car with my keys laced between my fingers. I checked the back seat. Twice. I didn't sleep when I got home. Every creak in the apartment made me sit up. I locked my bedroom door and pushed a chair in front of it. I kept telling myself maybe he was just a creep. But deep down, I already knew the truth. He wasn't watching for fun. He was planning. It was a Thursday when it finally escalated. A quiet night. Orders slowed after 9 p.m. I'd been watching the clock, trying to figure out how many more shifts I needed to cover Mateo's new therapy bill. Insurance barely helped anymore, and my bank account was gasping for air. At 10:15, we closed. Derek stayed back to mop while I counted the drawer. I moved fast, wanting to get out before the heat settled in my bones. I remember thinking how the air outside smelled like burnt rubber and dust. Then I saw him. Troy was leaning on my car like it belonged to him. One boot up on the bumper, arms folded, that grin still stuck to his face. I froze at the door. Derek noticed. "You good?" I pointed. "He's back." Derek grabbed the bat. "Stay inside," he said. But I didn't listen. I stepped out fast, keys in hand, moving like maybe I wasn't scared, like maybe pretending I had control would make it true. Troy straightened. "You." He took a step closer. "Knew you'd be alone eventually." Lunged. I barely had time to fumble my keys before his hand locked around my wrist. His grip was dry and hard, like leather left in the sun too long. "Let me go!" I screamed, trying to twist away. And then, headlights. Loud, blaring horn. Derek's wow. Truck came flying into the lot. The tires screamed against the pavement. Troy flinched, let go, and bolted. He didn't run toward the street. He ran into the desert behind the strip mall, into darkness and cactus, and God knows what else. Derek jumped out, still holding the bat, but Troy was already gone. I didn't cry until I got home. The cops came that night. I filed a report, showed them the note, told them about the breathing on the phone, the motel comment. They didn't roll their eyes, but they didn't seem too shocked either. They said they'd checked the old motel on 7th Avenue. The next day, they called. They found his room. I didn't go there, didn't want to. But the officer on the phone sounded shaken, said the walls were covered in photos. Of me. At the counter, behind the register, getting out of my car, tying my apron. They found a stolen Domino's hat in the room too, one of the old designs. A receipt from a fake order placed 3 weeks ago. Someone had been watching for longer than I realized. I didn't sleep that weekend. I didn't go outside alone. Every time someone knocked on our apartment door, I jumped. Derek started walking me to my car after every shift. Didn't matter if it was closing or dinner rush. But eventually I had to quit. I couldn't risk it. Not with Mateo at home. Not with my mom worrying every time I left. I applied to other jobs, but nothing worked with the hours Mateo needed me home. His therapy bills started piling up again. I picked up a few cleaning gigs, but nothing stable. I started carrying a knife in my purse, kept it under my pillow at night, just in case. Sometimes I'd wake up gasping, sure I'd heard someone at the window. I'd check the locks twice before I could breathe. My life didn't get better, just quieter, but not safe. Never safe. A month passed. I started to think maybe it was really over. Maybe Troy had run too far into the desert and disappeared, for good. Then I got a message. It was from Ellie, the girl who took over my old shifts at Domino's. She was new, barely 18, still in high school. I'd trained her for maybe 3 days before I left. Her text said, "Some creep keeps asking if you still work here." Attached was a blurry photo she'd taken through the window. It was Troy, face pressed to the glass, yellow smile, watching. That was all. No police follow-up, no news reports, nothing. He was still out there, maybe still watching. I didn't reply to Ellie. I didn't want to scare her more. I just blocked the number and sat on the edge of my bed until morning. I still carry the knife, still check the locks, still sleep in shifts. Because the thing no one tells you is, when someone decides to fixate on you, there's no warning. No safe place, no rules, no reasons, just waiting, just watching. Nowhere is safe. Sometimes fear isn't irrational, it's protective. Listen to it, trust it, speak up sooner, even if your voice shakes, because not every regular customer is harmless, and not every stare is empty. Ignoring the red flags might help you keep a job, but it could cost you your safety, or worse. They say the cold gets into your bones, but I think it starts in your head. You stop caring when your fingers go numb. That's how I've been living for the last 8 months, numb and not caring. After the Hemlo mine cut half its staff, I got pink-slipped like the rest. I thought I'd be back underground within weeks. That was last spring. Now, I deliver pizzas out of a rundown Domino's off a service road near the Trans-Canada Highway in Thunder Bay. We're open 24/7 even, when God himself calls in sick. Tonight was one of those nights. Blizzard warning, wind chill reading, 35 degrees C, but that doesn't stop orders from coming in. Some folks get hungry or lonely or both. Raj, my shift manager, tossed me the keys at 1:15 a.m. I was the last guy standing. Address is 2279 Lakeshore Drive. Big tip, cash. I nodded, pulled my hoodie tighter, and stepped into the kind of snowstorm that kills moose. My Dodge Ram's heater had been dead since November, and I didn't have the money to fix it, not with child support due. My ex took our daughter to Vancouver, and the judge took the rest of me. The GPS showed a long, dark stretch past an abandoned truck stop. Nothing but trees and wind. I followed it anyway. That's what you do when you're running low on gas, hope, and choices. I found 2279 by accident, a rotted mailbox buried in snow, pointing to a shack near the frozen bay. It looked like a collapsed boathouse. The roof had caved in under years of ice. I killed the engine. Then my phone rang. I answered, and a child's voice whispered, "You're late." I sat there for a second, frozen in place. That voice wasn't the robotic kind you expect from prank calls. It was soft, tired, and cold. Too cold. "Who is this?" I asked, but the line went dead. The boathouse door creaked open on its own, slow and deliberate, like it had been waiting. I grabbed the pizza bag and crunched through knee-deep snow, boots already soaked. The wind stabbed my face, but I wasn't turning back without dropping that order. I needed the money. A figure stepped out from the doorway, tall, padded in a snowmobile suit, full helmet hiding everything. The visor was down, reflecting the porch light that shouldn't have been on. "You made it," the figure rasped. Voice distorted, but human. "Pizza for, I guess you know," I said. It nodded and reached out with gloved hands, offering exact change in cash. I blinked. All $2 bills, toonies but paper, not coin. We stopped printing those in the 90s. Keep the change. I hesitated. The gloves slipped as they grabbed the box, revealing fingers blackened and cracked with frostbite, skin flaking, like old rubber. I pulled back. "Jesus, you okay?" But the figure didn't answer. It just tilted its head and stood perfectly still, box in hand. Then the porch light blew out. Everything fell dark except the snow light off the lake. I backed away, slipping, barely making it to the truck. As I fumbled for the door handle, I heard the boathouse door slam shut like a shotgun. I peeled out, tires spinning on ice. The dashboard lights flickered. For a second, I thought I saw small handprints fogging the inside of the passenger window. I didn't stop to check. I just drove. Back on the highway, I started breathing again. The kind of breath that fogs up glass and proves you're still alive. Snow roared sideways across my windshield, but I stayed the course, knowing each mile back to Domino's was a mile away from whatever the hell that was. Then the headlights appeared, bright, round, and way too close. I checked my mirror. Nothing but light. No grill, no bumper, no driver. Just two white circles floating like eyes in a nightmare. I tapped the gas. The truck accelerated on its own. Pedals sank under my foot, pressed flat. "What the hell?" I muttered, gripping the wheel as we tore through snowdrifts at 90. Clicks per hour. The radio hissed, station gone. Static filled the cab, then a voice barely audible through the noise. "You forgot my dipping sauce." I nearly swerved off the road. It wasn't a child's voice anymore. It was wrong. Hollow. Like someone mimicking a kid without understanding how mouths worked. Then the headlights vanished. No flash, no turn, just gone. I braked hard at the county line, spinning halfway into the ditch. I sat there for 5 minutes, breathing like I'd just climbed a shaft ladder. The truck's heater let out one final wheeze and died completely. When I made it back to the shop, Raj was gone. I tossed the keys on the counter and stumbled into the break room, heart racing. I opened the cash envelope. The bills inside? Not paper anymore. Ash, burnt, cold, still shaped like money. I went home and slept with the lights on, just for one night. But the knocking started anyway. I woke up to tapping on my door. 3 soft knocks, then silence. No footsteps in the hall. No neighbors awake at 3:27 a.m. I didn't open the door. I stared at it for over an hour until the sun started to rise behind heavy clouds. When I finally checked the peephole, there was nothing there except a pizza box. No address, no sticker, just Marcus scrawled in red marker. I didn't touch it. I left it there all day. That morning, I went back to Domino's with the delivery slip from last night. I wanted answers. Raj stared at the slip, like I'd handed him a confession, then he laughed, quiet and nervous. "Bro, this is your handwriting." "What?" "You wrote this, see?" He showed me a post-it from last week. Same scrawl, same uneven R's. I felt something crawl up my spine. "There's no 2279 Lakeshore," he added. "That whole stretch went under back in '87. They flooded it for shoreline cleanup." I didn't say anything. I just nodded, left, and drove to the mechanic. I needed my truck fixed or torched. I told him to check the passenger door where I'd seen the handprints. He called me later that night. "You got kids?" he asked. "No. Why?" "Because there's child-sized prints frozen into the metal, under the paint, like embedded." I hung up. When I got home, the box was gone. But there was a birthday card in my mailbox, one my daughter had made last year. Same drawing, same handwriting, but postmarked Thunder Bay. She lives in Vancouver. I stopped delivering after that. Told Raj I was done with the graveyard shift. He didn't argue. Probably saw it in my face. I wasn't right anymore. But that night, I woke up again. No knocks this time. Just my truck idling in the driveway, headlights on. Keys still on my kitchen table. I walked outside barefoot. The snow didn't burn. It felt warm, like water. The passenger door was open. A Domino's slip sat on the dash. New address, 41 Crystal Hollow. Another non-existent place. But the handwriting was mine again. And the pizza box, already in the truck bed. I've started driving again, not because I want to, but because when I don't, something else does. My phone buzzes with order-confirmed texts that disappear seconds later. The tips always land in my account, amounts I never earn, and the repo man called last week. Said he followed my truck to the edge of the bay at 2:13 a.m., but I was asleep, alone. Now I just follow the roads the GPS shouldn't know, places people swear don't exist anymore. I hand off boxes I never pack to people with no faces. I don't look too close. I don't ask names, because I know now. Some debts don't come in envelopes. Some are paid in miles and frostbite and forgotten. Aims and some jobs, you don't quit. They quit you. Desperation can make you ignore the signs, frozen roads, phantom voices, even your own handwriting. But every choice leaves a mark, especially the ones you pretend you didn't make. I didn't have much left. A busted Ford Ranger with no AC, a maxed-out credit card, and a $43 Domino's uniform that always smelled like garlic and fryer grease. I was 29, working nights in Fort Worth, crashing on my buddy Kyle's couch after Michelle walked out on me 2 months ago. Said she couldn't be with a man still stuck in neutral. She wasn't wrong. My only anchor was Rusty, my rescue beagle with the lazy eye and a bark that sounded like a squeaky hinge. I got him after Dad died. Never thought a $10 shelter dog would end up meaning more than half the people in my life. That night in August, the air was thick like soup and the cicadas were screaming. My last run was an order to a ranch house out on Old Mill Road. Cash order. Tip already calculated. Just enough for a gas refill. The note said, "Leave it on the porch. Don't knock." Weird, but I'd seen weirder. One time, a guy paid me to sing happy birthday to his cat. I pulled off the main road and onto a gravel drive that twisted like a snake. When my headlights finally hit the porch, I saw something small and familiar lying near the first step. I threw the truck in park and stepped out. It was Rusty's collar. Red. Worn. His name tag dangling from the buckle, still warm from the day. My chest tightened. Rusty never left the house. Kyle never let him out. Then I saw the tire tracks, freshly dug into the dirt, veering back toward the woods. And next to them, a smear of dark, wet blood. That pizza box hit the ground fast. I already knew I wasn't delivering anything tonight. I called Mitch, the night manager. I couldn't even string words together at first. Just said something happened out on Old Mill and I needed him. Bad. To his credit, he didn't ask questions, just said, "Stay there, I'm coming." 15 minutes later, his truck pulled, headlights bouncing across the trees. He stepped out, all 6'4" of him, ex-Marine backbone stiff as rebar. "You okay?" he asked. I shook my head and pointed to the collar. Mitch's face paled. Shit. We followed the tire marks. His flashlight cut through the trees like a scalpel. It was hot and still, no wind, not even the buzz of bugs. The kind of quiet that doesn't belong in nature. We didn't walk more than 30 yards. Before I saw it, Rusty, or what used to be him, he was laid out like a ritual. His little body skinned so clean it looked fake. His paws, tail, and head untouched. The rest was just raw muscle and bone. His eyes were closed, peaceful even, like someone had taken the time to be careful. Mitch stumbled back and puked in the bushes. I dropped to my knees and felt everything inside me just snap. I didn't scream, didn't cry, just sat there with my hands shaking so bad I couldn't even pull out my phone to call 911. Mitch eventually did. Told them there was an animal killing and they'd want to see it for themselves. But I already knew what they'd say. Coyotes, maybe a sick person, no leads. No cameras, but this wasn't random. This was personal. And somewhere in the woods behind that house, someone was watching us the whole time. Deputy Ruiz and Deputy Carter showed up 20 minutes later, flashlights in hand, guns holstered, faces unreadable. They examined Rusty's body, the skinned fur, the strange placement. Mitch and I stood back, silent. I caught Ruiz glancing at me more than once. "You sure it's your dog?" he finally asked. I didn't answer. I just handed him a photo of Rusty from my phone, sitting on the couch with his tongue lolling out, eyes goofy, collar red. Ruiz nodded, then motioned to something in the dirt nearby. Hoof prints. "Horse?" Mitch asked. "Looks like it," Ruiz said. "Not many folks ride out this way, and certainly not at night." Carter walked a few feet ahead and stopped. "Hey, got something else." He pulled a butcher's knife out of the ground, half buried under a thin layer of pine needles. Dried blood clung to the blade. Rust had started to bloom near the hilt. Then Carter held up a wrinkled piece of receipt paper, stuck to the handle, with sap. My name was circled in red ink. That's when I lost it. He was watching me. Someone's been watching me. Ruiz raised his hands. We'll take it in. No guarantees, but we'll run prints. You should go home. Get some rest. Rest? Rusty was the one thing I had left. Now he was gone, and all they could offer was a paper bag with evidence and a maybe. Mitch drove me home that night. Neither of us said much. He just kept checking the rearview mirror. I couldn't blame him. I was doing the same thing. I quit. Domino's the next morning texted Mitch and said I couldn't come back. Couldn't smell the dough or hear that damn order printer without picturing what happened in those woods. Kyle tried to comfort me, said maybe it was just some sick hick with a grudge against pets. But I knew better. Rusty wasn't random. They lured me out there for a reason. They wanted me to see it. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I checked the locks 4 or 5 times a night. I kept hearing Rusty's tags jingling, except they were still in my glove compartment exactly where I left them after the deputies logged them as evidence and let me keep them. Then, exactly 1 week later, I got a Domino's order notification on my phone. I hadn't opened the app since I quit. My account was deleted. The message was short. You shouldn't have looked for him. And below that, a photo. My apartment's front door taken from just a few feet away. I dropped the phone. Ran to the window. No one was there. No cars, no bikes. Just the sound of cicadas again, louder than ever. Like they were trying to cover something else. I reported it again. Ruiz said they'd look into it, but I knew they wouldn't find anything. This person wasn't just sick, they were smart, and they weren't done. Not with me, not yet. I started crashing in my truck, moving it around every couple nights. I didn't tell Kyle why, just said I needed space. Truth was, I didn't want anyone else dragged into this. I started hearing things, scratches at the door, clicks on my windows. A cough from the dark, maybe real, maybe my brain, fried from grief and guilt and no sleep. Didn't matter. It felt real. I started seeing flyers around town. Lost dog posters, different breeds, all missing from neighborhoods within 5 miles of mine. Same week, same time frame. I knew. They weren't lost. They were taken. Like Rusty. I drove back to Old Mill Road once, just to look. The tire tracks were gone. The house, empty. For sale sign out front. No furniture inside. I called the listing number. The agent said the property had been vacant for over a year. No one named J. Doe had ever placed an order from that address. There had never been a delivery scheduled that night. They set me up. From the start. I tried to tell the cops again. They just told me to get help, said I sounded off. I am off, but I'm also not wrong. Somewhere out there, the Skinner is still watching, still waiting, and he knows where I live. Because that photo, it wasn't the last one I got. Last night, a new message pinged on my phone. No words, just a picture. My old Domino's uniform, laid out on my front porch like a body. Sometimes the evil we fear isn't a ghost or a legend. It's a person, flesh and blood. And when you sense something isn't right, trust your gut. Walk away. Because not every delivery makes it home, and not every horror ends when the shift does. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. The job, I mean. Delivering pizzas for Domino's on the edge of Edmonton's industrial district wasn't anyone's dream. But dreams cost money, and I didn't have any. Everything I earned, every dollar, and every extra shift went toward keeping my sister's hospital bills from burying us both. Kara had lupus, the kind that doesn't give you good days, only bad and worse. Our parents were out of the picture. Dad walked out when I was 10, and Mom passed 2 years ago. I was 24, broke, and constantly driving a Corolla with a heater, that gave up the ghost sometime last winter. I hadn't had a full night's sleep in weeks, and my phone battery stayed red more often than not. The store was on the outskirts, surrounded by warehouses with broken windows and security lights that flickered like horror movie props. Our back alley, where we hauled trash and received inventory, was a narrow strip of cracked pavement and broken pallets. The graffiti on the walls looked more like warnings than art. Jess was the only one who made the job bearable. Our shift manager. She was in her 30s, sharp as a box cutter, and always had a taser in her apron. No one messed with her. Sometimes after the store closed, we'd split a warm soda and talk about how we both deserved better. It was October 14th when it happened. First snowfall of the season. It wasn't even midnight yet. I was taking out the trash just like I'd done 100 times before. Except this time, someone was waiting for me in the dark. I spotted him behind the dumpster, half hidden in the shadows. At first, I thought it was just some guy digging for scraps. You get used to that in a city like Edmonton. Then he stepped forward, and I knew better. He wasn't searching for food. He was watching me. He was tall, thin, with this look in his eyes like he hadn't blinked in hours. His cheeks were hollow and his breath steamed in the cold like smoke from a dying fire. "Hey," he rasped. "You work here?" I tightened my grip on the trash bag and gave him a cautious nod. "Yeah." He took another step. His boots crunched on the icy pavement. "I used to deliver for this place," he said, voice cracked and low. "They fired me for stealing. Bunch of liars." His hands flexed at his sides, like he was waiting for a reason to move. I took a step back, slow and careful. My chest felt tight like my ribs were locking up. I'm just taking out the trash, man," I muttered. "I bet you never even got written up, huh?" he said, his tone twisting. "Bet they love you." Then he lunged. I dropped the trash and ran for the door, my shoes slipping on the thin layer of snow. My heart slammed against my ribs. I hit the back door full force. "Jess, open up!" I felt fingers brush my shoulder. The door clicked open just as I twisted free. Jess yanked me inside, slammed the door, and locked it behind us. We stood in silence, panting. Then, through the narrow glass pane, we saw his face, pressed against it, fogging it with each breath. And then, just like that, he was gone. Cops showed up 10 minutes later. I took statements. One of them even recognized the guy from a previous case. His name was Marcus Boone. He'd done time for break-ins and petty theft, was out on parole, apparently staying with his brother not far from the store. They found his fingerprints on the dumpster and the back door handle, enough to issue a warrant for violating parole, but not enough to make anyone feel safer. Jess pulled me aside the next day before my shift. "You quitting?" she asked, already knowing the answer. I nodded. I couldn't go back out there, couldn't take the trash out without feeling eyes on me. She handed me a sealed envelope. "There's $200 in there. Tips I fudged. Call it hazard pay." I started to protest, but she cut me off with a look. "Get a better job, Mitchell. You don't belong in alleys." I left that night, didn't even pack a goodbye pizza. I tried to tell myself it was over, that I'd gotten away. But fear isn't something you leave behind. I picked up a new job at a 24-hour gas station on the edge of town. It was worse in all the ways that mattered: the smell, the creeps, the night shifts that seemed longer somehow, even though the hours were the same. Every shadow near the dumpsters made me flinch. Every customer who lingered too long set my pulse racing. I started double locking every door, checking the bathroom, stalls before I cleaned. There were nights I swore I saw his face again, just for a second, in the reflections of the station windows. My gut told me Marcus wasn't done. Not with me. And then, 1 month to the day after the alley incident, I got a text. No name. Just a message. "You should have stayed." Attached was a photo. It showed the back door of Domino's. Taken at night. Taken recently. The snow was fresh. The lights were still flickering. He'd gone back. Or maybe he'd never left. I stared at the photo until the screen dimmed and my hands started to shake. I don't know what he wanted. Revenge? Recognition? Maybe just someone to remember he existed. I never answered the message, but I changed my number the next morning because deep down, I knew nowhere is safe. Trust your instincts. Survival isn't always about being brave. It's about listening to fear when it whispers in your ear. When the hairs on your neck stand up, when the shadows move just wrong, believe it. Because in this world, danger doesn't always knock. Sometimes it waits by the dumpster. I used to be a factory guy. Steelworks 30 years. Same lunch pail, same boots, same hours. Then came the layoffs. Economic pivot, they called it. They handed me a severance check and a handshake. That was 5 years ago. I poured everything into this Domino's. All of it. Money, sweat, marriage. Linda and I figured if we couldn't count on the plant, we could count on ourselves. She did the books. I ran the ovens. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We worked through blizzards, staff quitting mid-shift, busted ovens, stolen tips. We kept the doors open when everyone else in the plaza boarded theirs shut. Black Friday last year was our best day ever, nearly $9,000 in one night. People ordering extra because the snow made them lazy and the cold made them hungry. I was wiped by close. Linda kissed my cheek and said, "Go home, Frank. I'll finish the deposit." I left her there, standing in the hum of the walk-in cooler and the clink of quarters in the register. Last time I saw her, I woke at 2 a.m. to an empty bed. I thought maybe she'd fallen asleep at the shop. That happens sometimes. But when I drove back over, her car was in the lot. Windows frosted over, driver's door still locked. The back door was cracked open. And the safe? Empty. So was the DVR. I called the cops. They asked if she had any enemies. I said no. But in the quiet that followed, I realized something cold had started crawling into my gut. It wasn't the snow. It was the kind of knowing you don't want to admit to yourself. Not until it's too late. And by then, it already was. Detective Nguyen was the kind of cop who looked like he hadn't slept in a year. He wore the same corduroy blazer every time he visited, always with coffee breath and a voice too calm for the news he brought. "We found this in the trash," he said on day 2. He slid a crumpled note across my Formica table. My hand shook when I unfolded it. "Frank, I'm sorry, it's the only way." That was it. No signature. Just that stupid curl in the F like only Linda wrote it. I felt sick. She left me a goodbye, buried in the garbage, and that was supposed to be enough? Then Nguyen started asking questions I didn't have answers to. Did she seem distracted lately? Withdrawn? She was tired, but it's November in Winnipeg. Everyone's tired. Did you know about the withdrawals? I blinked. What withdrawals? He showed me the bank statements. Over the last month, $42,000 gone. Little by little. ATM here. Transfer there. None of it flagged. None of it mentioned. The kicker? A life insurance policy in my name. Taken out 3 weeks ago. Big payout if I died. Linda listed as the sole beneficiary. Nguyen asked if we'd been fighting. I told him no. I wasn't lying. The fights had stopped years ago. We were just quiet, routine, like two machines that used to work together but now just ran beside each other. Maybe I should have seen it. The longer nights at the shop, the extra trips to the bank, the way she stopped talking about next summer. But I trusted her. God help me, I did. And now all I had left was a greasy apron, a gutted bank account, and a name no one said without a whisper. After Linda vanished, things fell apart fast. Domino's corporate pulled the franchise inside 2 weeks. Failure to maintain standards, they said. Like it was my ovens that went missing, not my wife. The bank didn't wait long either. I was 3 payments behind by January. House went to foreclosure. I moved into a weekly rate motel with green carpets that smelled like mildew and old cigarettes. The kind of place that didn't ask questions or charge extra if you paid in cash. Only person who checked on me was Ricky. He was just a kid, 19 maybe, always wore his hat backward and played metal too loud in the back. But he had a good heart. Showed up to the motel with leftover wings some nights. Never asked if I was okay, just sat with me like nothing was weird. Then one night Ricky said, "I always thought that dude was weird." "What dude?" I asked. "That guy in the black SUV. Came in every night for a month, right before. Close. Only ever bought a soda. Always waited until Linda was alone." I froze. "You tell the cops?" He nodded. "Yeah," said he paid cash, no receipt. But I remember his face. Beard like it was painted on. Smelled like cologne and tire, rubber. I asked Detective Nguyen. They ran footage from the lot. Sure enough, black SUV, same time, every night. Sometimes parked out back where the cameras didn't reach. Linda never mentioned him, never even hinted. Phone records turned up a Toronto number, called almost every night. She told me she was checking in with our niece. We don't have a niece in Toronto. I thought about that life insurance policy, the withdrawals, the note, and something cracked inside me that hadn't cracked since my dad died. 6 months after she vanished, I got a call from Detective Nguyen. His voice was tighter than usual. "She's alive, Frank." I had to sit down. Toronto police had pulled over a speeding BMW just outside the city. The driver's license was fake. Fingerprints told the rest. Linda Kowalski, my wife, my partner, my everything. Passenger seat, a 28-year-old guy named Damien Krall, matched the black SUV from the Domino's lot. Turns out he used to work at a tire shop a few blocks from the plaza. Guess that's where the rubber smell came from. She drained our account and disappeared, planning her exit with the same hands that used to count tips and fold laundry next to mine. She'd funneled cash into fake accounts, forged documents, created a whole new name. They found over $200,000 in her new account. She didn't run because she was scared. She ran because she'd planned it. I asked Nguyen, "Did she say anything?" He paused. Said she felt trapped. Said you were stuck in the past and she wanted more. Said she tried to leave you something. That note, a sorry, crumpled in the garbage. People in town stopped making eye contact after the news broke. They all assumed I must have driven her away, maybe hit her, maybe worse. Ricky was the only one who didn't flinch. Just brought me a large 2-topping and said, "I still think she's scum." I laughed for the first time in months. Did I still love her? I don't know. I loved someone once. I just don't know who she really was. And that's the worst part. Now I deliver pizzas for the new owner of the Domino's I once built from the ground up. They don't know who I am. Or they pretend not to. Half the pay. Double the shame. I park behind that same plaza every night. Same alley. Same cracked pavement. Sometimes I think I hear her laugh in the wind. I still drive the old Buick. Still, wear my wedding ring. Mateo's diner burned down last week. Someone scrawled, "Where's Linda?" on the dumpster behind it. People don't forget here, they just whisper. Some nights I call her old number. It's been disconnected for months. But the voicemail still plays. "You've reached Linda. Leave a message." I always listen to the whole thing. I never leave a message. I don't know if I'm hoping she'll call back, or if I just want to hear her voice one more time, untouched by lies. I don't sleep much these days. Motel mattress has a dip in the middle like it's holding me down. I keep thinking about the last time she looked me in the eye. She hugged me, said, "You go home," like she meant it. And I did. God help me, I did. Trust is built over decades, but can be broken in a moment. Sometimes the person you trust the most isn't your partner. They're just the one who knows exactly where to hurt you. Watch for the little things. Love deeply, but protect yourself too. Because betrayal doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it leaves quietly after closing shift with the keys and the cash. Long before I ever stepped foot inside that Domino's on Portage in Maine, life had already been unraveling in quiet, inconvenient ways. My name's Liam Carter, and if you'd asked me a year ago what I'd be doing now, delivering Uber Eats in a dying Corolla with a slipping transmission and empty bank account, wouldn't have been my answer. I was supposed to be making it as a freelance graphic designer, building brands, designing campaigns, maybe even landing a steady contract. But invoices went unpaid, clients ghosted, and rent didn't care about excuses. After my girlfriend, left back in September, said she needed someone present, the silence in my one-bedroom downtown apartment started echoing louder. I began filling it with work. Double shifts, gig apps, anything to distract me. I told myself things would get better. I said that every night, especially when I couldn't afford heating. That night in late November was colder than usual. Winnipeg, cold, where the air cuts through your clothes and makes you taste metal. I had just finished a brutal 13-hour stretch delivering through snow and black ice. All I wanted was something hot and cheap before heading home to crash. Domino's was still lit up like always, that faint neon glow in the corner window promising some comfort. Inside, it was almost empty. Just the smell of grease, the hum of warm ovens, and a woman behind the counter. Becca, I later learned. She was sharp, not just in how she carried herself, but in her eyes. Alert, scanning, like someone who'd seen things she didn't talk about. I barely looked up when I ordered a $7.99 two-topping special. I was busy scrolling my phone, trying to ignore the ache in my knuckles from the cold and the endless stack of overdue invoices in my inbox. Then she said it. "Hey, you drive that beat-up gray Corolla near the dumpster?" I looked up, caught off guard. "Yeah, why?" "I just saw some guy open the door and get in." Everything froze. I didn't wait for a receipt. I bolted out the door. The night air slapped me across the face, knocking the tired out of me. My boots skidded on the black ice near the curb as I rounded the back of the building, heart thudding. There it was, my Corolla, door cracked open, interior swallowed in shadows. The one street lamp above flickered like it couldn't decide whether to help me or not. I crept up slowly, adrenaline burning through the fatigue. My laptop bag was on the back seat. If that was gone, it was over. Months of projects, clients, files. I hadn't backed up yet, not to mention my only source of work. From 10 feet away, I couldn't tell if anyone was inside. I stepped closer, squinting through the dark. The driver's seat looked empty. I reached for the door handle. Then, I heard the shuffle. Something moved in the back. Not a big sound, but enough to turn my insides to ice. I backed off, hand shaking as I reached for my phone and dialed 911. My voice came out tight and breathless. "Someone's in my car. He's going through my stuff." Dispatch was quick. Told me to stay back, said a patrol unit was close by. I stood behind a pile of slushy snow, phone to my ear, eyes locked on my own car like it was a crime scene on TV. My breath came out in white bursts. I could almost feel my freelance life slipping through that cracked door. Within minutes, 2 cruisers pulled in, blue lights washing the Domino's in eerie color. The officers, Patel and Green, stepped out fast, hands already at their belts. Green motioned for me to stay where I was, and the two of them approached the Corolla, flashlights drawn. What happened next still replays in slow motion. Green opened the back door, and in a sudden burst, a figure lunged out. Thin, pale, wild-eyed. He slammed into me hard enough to knock me back into the snowbank. I gasped. Wind knocked out of me as Patel gave chase down the alley, Green checking if I was hurt. I couldn't speak, just pointed at my bag still on the seat. Somehow it was still there. The cops called it a crime of opportunity. Marcus Doyle, a name they knew well. Local guy, late 20s, lost to meth and cold nights. Had a string of break-ins and petty thefts on record. Never violent, just desperate. They found no weapons, but they couldn't catch him either. He vanished into the Winnipeg alley maze like he knew it better than home. Inside, Becca poured me a hot coffee without asking. "Rough night, huh?" she said, eyebrows raised. I nodded, still shaken. "You don't even know." She handed me the cup, then gave a little half smile. Actually, I do. Saw a guy try to break into a Honda last month. Punched the window with his bare hand. Lost more blood than he gained. I let out a breath. Thanks for saying something. If you hadn't... Yeah, people don't always pay attention, she said. Or they do and don't care. We sat in that silence for a moment. I clutched the coffee like it was keeping my pulse steady. The officers took my statement at a booth in the back, then left with a promise to keep an eye out. Back in my car, I noticed the glove box was wide open. Insurance, registration, all gone. Useless to him probably, but dangerous for me. My name, my address, just out there now. Driving home, I kept checking my rear view. I knew it was paranoia, but the thought that Marcus might show up again, at my place maybe, felt real. The streets were empty, but my mind wasn't. The heater coughed, blew lukewarm, air to still better than nothing. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every sound in the hallway made me flinch. I ended up jamming a chair under the doorknob like a scene from a movie. But there was no second break-in, no phone call, no dramatic follow-up. Just the next morning, gray and dull and full of errands. First stop was Manitoba Public Insurance to start the replacement paperwork. Next came changing the locks on my apartment door, just in case. It wasn't cheap. None of it was. I drained what little was left in my checking account and watched the overdraft line blink red. Freelance jobs kept piling up, unpaid and half-promised. I followed up on a logo design I'd sent to a boutique agency. They ghosted me. Again. The evening, I drove to a client meeting in St. Boniface. On the way, the transmission slipped twice. The Corolla jerked like it was trying to cough up a lung. I clenched the wheel tighter each time. I thought about Becca more than once that day, not in a romantic way, just with appreciation. If she hadn't spoken up, if I'd waited 5 more minutes in that line. Later that week, I came back to that Domino's, not for pizza, but to say thanks again. She waved me off, said, "Just keep your doors locked, city kid." It stuck with me. How something so small, someone paying attention, someone giving a damn, had kept me from losing everything. It's been 3 weeks since that night. I still check my locks twice. My new registration came in the mail yesterday. I tucked it in the glove box, then locked that too. Just a habit now. The Corolla's dying faster by the day. I hear the gears whine when I take corners. I'm saving for repairs, but the savings account is more aspiration than reality. Becca and I chat sometimes when I swing by for pizza. Nothing deep, just how cold it is or how dead the streets feel. But I notice how her eyes never stop. Moving, always scanning. I haven't seen Marcus since. Neither have the cops. I imagine he's either found another car, another alley, or didn't make it through one of the colder nights. Me, I'm still juggling freelance gigs and food delivery. Still trying to stay afloat, but I'm more alert now. Not just about the streets, but about people, about listening. Because sometimes the difference between disaster and survival is a single sentence. A woman behind the counter saying, "You might want to check." That's all it takes. And that's the thing I keep returning to, over and over. Some people watch the world happen. Others keep it from falling apart. A little attention can save a life. In a world where everyone's distracted, being present, being aware, can be the difference between loss and survival. Sometimes, the real heroes are the ones who simply pay attention. They say you hit rock bottom slowly, like drowning in molasses. For me, it started with a song, or rather the silence that followed. My band, Second Harbor, broke up 6 months ago after our 3rd gig in Manchester bombed. We'd put our savings into recording gear, a van, merch. I took a loan from a guy named Garrick, a real quiet type with tattoos on his fingers and eyes that didn't blink enough. When we split, so did the money. Guess who was left holding the bag? I've been working nights at Domino's in Grimsby, ever since. The place is sad, under a flickering neon sign that makes everything outside look like an old VHS tape. My flat's right above a kebab shop. Grease stains the walls, and the fan outside my window never stops whining. Life became a loop. Deliver, eat, sleep. Avoid Garrick. That night, October 30th, 2023, started like any other. Cold drizzle, empty streets. My hands reeked of dough and sanitizer. Dave, my manager, was cleaning the dough trays when he tossed me one last delivery ticket. I glanced at the time, 11:45 p.m. Out by the docks, he said, 47 Wharf Lane. Tips in already. Just drop it and clock out. I hesitated. Wharf Lane was a dead zone. Last I heard, the fish market down there caught fire 2 years ago. No one went there. No one lived there. But the bonus was good, and I needed the money. My rent was late, and Garrick had called me earlier that day, just breathing, saying nothing. I grabbed the pizza bag and keys. The streets were fog-thick. My Honda's heater barely worked, and the GPS spun like it was guessing. Something felt wrong, but I went anyway. Grimsby's docks at night feel like something left behind by the world. Warehouses with missing roofs, seagulls screaming into nothing, puddles that smell like bleach and regret. I followed the GPS, turning off the main road and onto Wharf Lane, though no sign said so, just rusted fences and overgrown weeds. The location took me to a derelict warehouse. Windows boarded up. No cars, no doorbell. Just one crooked streetlight buzzing like a dying fly. I pulled up and double-checked the receipt. 47 Wharf Lane. The place looked dead 20 years ago. I called the number listed on the order. No answer. I sat there, engine running, fingers drumming the steering wheel. I told myself it was just a prank, some teen messing around with the app. Maybe Dave would comp me for gas. Then I heard it. A tap. Light. Like knuckles brushing fabric. I turned. A woman stood by my window. She wore a raincoat with the hood, pulled low, shadows swallowing her face. Her hands hung at her sides too long, like arms drawn out in a dream. "That for me?" she asked. Her voice sounded wet, like something caught between a whisper and water trickling through old pipes. "Yeah," I said. $14.50. She reached into her coat and pulled out a stack of crumpled, damp 1-pound notes, the paper soggy and stained dark in places. They smelled like old fish left in the sun. I took the money without looking at it too hard. "You'll deliver for me again," she whispered, her fingers brushing my wrist. Cold, rough, too strong. I yanked away, dropped the pizza in her hands, and walked backwards to my car. She didn't follow. She just watched, smiling. I drove back faster than I should have. My tires slipped once on a patch of oil-slick road. I didn't care. I needed to be gone, back under familiar streetlights. I didn't even look back until I hit the roundabout near the industrial park. I checked my mirror. She was gone. I parked behind Domino's and staggered inside. Dave was already locking up. He raised an eyebrow. "That Wharf Lane run?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice even. "Weird spot. Didn't even know people lived out there." Dave shrugged. "They don't." I blinked. "But the ticket?" He waved it off. "You sure you read it right? No Wharf Lane in the system. We haven't delivered out there in months." I checked my app log. The order was still there. D2417, 47 Wharf Lane, paid online plus $50 tip. The receipt even printed from the kitchen. He leaned over my phone, squinting. "Huh, glitch maybe." I didn't argue. I just clocked out, took my keys, and left. That night, back in my flat, I opened the envelope of cash she gave me. The bills were dry now, crisp, normal. But the smell, old salt and rot, clung to them like smoke. I washed my hands 3 times. It didn't help. When I tried to sleep, The wind rattled my window. I woke up around 3 a.m. to a soft, steady tapping. Tap, tap, tap like fingernails on glass. I froze. I lived 2 floors up. I didn't look. I just lay there, eyes wide, listening. Tap, tap, tap. Then, nothing. Silence, thick as sleep. The next day I brought the security footage to Dave. I needed to prove I wasn't losing it. I pulled it up on his backroom computer, the camera pointed at the delivery lot. We watched together in silence. There was my Honda, headlights cutting through, fog, me getting out with the pizza bag. Then, nothing else. No woman, no coat, no transaction. No one touched me. Just me walking to the warehouse, then rushing back, white-faced as if I'd seen something that wasn't there. Dave leaned back, in his chair. "Mate, there's no one with you." My mouth felt dry. She was right there. Maybe it was the fog. Maybe you imagined her. Or maybe... He trailed off. "What?" Dave scratched his jaw. "This place, these docks, people say they're full of ghosts. Or worse, just folks who never really left." I went home early. My phone buzzed that night. "Your tip from Wharf Lane Delivery has been processed. $50, clean, no record in the order history." I thought about going to the police. But what would I say? A ghost gave me fish money and left no trace? Instead, I tried to forget. I blocked the number, burned the cash. Didn't sleep for 2 nights straight. Then on the 3rd night, I came home to a note taped to my door. "Next order's ready, same time. You'll deliver again." No name. Just an address, 17 Saltburn Row. It wasn't in the Domino system, but part of me knew I was going, whether I wanted to or not. I tried to quit, told Dave I was done with night shifts. He laughed. "You didn't clock in last night," he said, "but we still paid you." "What?" "Check your account." I did. Another $50 bonus. My hands trembled. I drove out to Saltburn Row, not because I wanted to, but because some part of me had to. Like I was already halfway there before I decided. The house was barely standing. No lights. Just a rotting roof and door hanging off the frame. She was waiting outside, same coat, same voice. "You remembered," she said. I didn't speak. I handed her the bag I didn't remember packing. This time, she didn't smile. "Next time," she whispered, "bring more, I'm still hungry." I ran. I didn't turn back. I didn't sleep that night or the next. Now, every few weeks, a new address appears in my inbox. The orders aren't real, but the money always shows up. I don't clock in, Domino's doesn't question it. But I go. Because when I don't, the tapping starts again. Always 3 knocks. Always after midnight. Some debts you repay with money. Others with pieces of yourself. Trust your instincts because not all jobs are worth the paycheck and not every customer is alive.